All eyes on us now. Back in August, it was just us. We put in the work, we set our goals, and we fought every single day to make it reality. This is the season we dream of, and now it's time to wake up.
Who let the dogs out?
Ripley, soak it all in. Because tomorrow night in NA, we start something beautiful. We know when y'all show up, we gonna show out. Come Friday, we gonna show you who run football.
Welcome to Inside New Albany Football with Coach Cody Stubblefield. I'm Jody Walls.
I'm Brady Brock.
We're with Gumtree Mortgage here in New Albany over on Starling Avenue. We specialize in home financing needs, whether it's a purchase, a refinance, or a new construction.
And we're super passionate about trying to help you find the home of your dreams, help you get it financed, just like this one right here.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Game. You come out and hit them in the mouth on the first play, we're going to be fine.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Inside New Albany High School Football. I got with me Coach Cody Stubblefield and Mr. Paul Henry. We want to welcome you to today's show. We're shooting this show today at Wally Morgan State Farm. We appreciate their sponsorship. And also, Gumtree Mortgage has sponsored the entire season of the Coach's Show. Brady Brock and Jody Walls, if you would, hit them up for your mortgage needs. So, Coach, this week, Pontotoc, tell us about it.
Yeah, lost 14-13. Pontotoc's a good team, despite the record. They went into it, I think, with 2 wins. Both those victories were close, but they're a really physical team. Coach Carter, we said it before last week, he does a really good job of putting a team out there each year in and year out. They're good. This year was no exception. From a defensive line standpoint, they were really good. They gave us trouble up front, and they were fast enough on the back end to do some things as well. So I think we've played well defensively. Anytime we give up 14 points, we'd like to win that game. But we made a few mistakes, had quite a few penalties, and ultimately didn't play well enough to beat a good team.
Well, one thing, I think their win-loss record kind of is deceiving because I think they had played up
Yeah, I know
some bigger schools.
Right, they had played Grenada, and Grenada's a 6A team, so they have a tough schedule for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, so the first half, did we go in halftime 7-7?
Yes.
And it was kind of I don't know how to say it. I don't know if do you remember watching the Alabama played LSU a few years ago and the final was like 6-3. Do you remember that? It kind of reminded me of that. It was just a defensive battle, both teams struggling to run the ball.
Right.
So what were your thoughts going into halftime?
Well, I think going in, we knew we needed to continue to run the football. That's week in, week out. That's what we're going to try to do. We knew after evaluating the film from the sideline and Coach Curbo up top, from an offensive standpoint, we had to continue to try to pound the ball because they basically had 5 guys in the box. So anytime they've got 5 guys in the box, that means they've got a lot of guys out in space on the edges. They made sure they knew where Cameron Knox was, and oftentimes had 2 people on him. So which forced us to do other things. So I liked what we did. I just think too many penalties, some poor execution on some special teams. We faked a punt that ultimately we should have got, but had a bad snap on it, and then we went for it on a 3rd and short, which should have extended a drive. But had a bad snap, and offensively, the quarterback ran out of bounds. So, you take away those, you take away some penalties, and I think we've got more points on the board and ultimately win the game. So, apart from that, from our perspective, they played early with the quarterback. Connor, he got hurt and went out of the game, so that kind of changed up the game for them. They put an athlete back there. And ultimately, at the end, they threw up a jump ball that they came down with that turned into a touchdown. So would like to have that play back. But I think from a defensive standpoint, played well enough to win. Like I said, just too many mistakes and too many penalties that got the offense off the field.
Well, I felt like we were kind of watching a chess match, right? Just strategic both ways, and 14-13 ball game comes down to 1 or 2 plays.
Right.
And that's just it kind of bounced their way and not our way.
Yeah, the drive in the first half we went into, we popped a J screen that we're going to talk about, a screen to Cameron Knox who took it about 40, 50 yards, and then Keelan Simpson popped a big run and then punched it in on the next play. So it was the scoring drive we had in the first half was a 3-play drive. It just ultimately we executed. Went and evaluated it. Like I said, when they had 5 guys in the box and you've got 5 and 6 guys to block, you've got to win that matchup. So we've challenged our offensive line with that. They're a big part of success year in and year out in the way they play. But we would definitely like them to play better. We talk about all the time just being on a guy doesn't mean you're winning the block. We've got to move the line of scrimmage. We've got to advance. And so I look for us to come out and do a better job of that this week against Ripley.
Yeah, it's tough. We were riding home from the game, and I told Mr. Henry, I said, I bet you if you could have told Coach Stubblefield, we're going to hold him to 14 points prior to the game, you'd have said, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think we'll take that every week, From an offensive mindset of a coach, we always want to score more than 14. And from a defensive standpoint, that's not bad. That's pretty good. So, like I said, if I could sign somewhere in my career and hold a defense to 14 points the rest of my career, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if Coach Hammond would, but I certainly would. And again, penalties, failure conversions, like I said, just things that I think this week we're going back to kind of simplifying some things. I think we thought a little bit too much at times. It didn't ultimately play fast. I think that led to some penalties as far as getting lined up correctly and some of those things. But it all boils down to execution. We got, as a coaching staff, got to get them in the right play, and then as a player, they got to make sure they execute.
Well, one thing about it, you learn from mistakes and you move forward. And we got a really good Ripley Tiger football team coming in this week.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and before we get to that, let's go through some of the plays from this week real quick. So we started this last week. I think it was popular. So we're going to go through 5 plays from the Pontotoc game and just let Coach kind of tell us what the offensive and defensive mindset was in these plays. So the first play, Coach, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, the first play is that J screen I talked about in the first half. We hit 3 plays in a row, that 3-play scoring drive, and they're all on here. The first one is a screen to Cameron Knox. You can see right there that they've actually got the box loaded right there. There's 7 guys in it, and ultimately when we saw that, we were able to get the ball on the edge and got it to him quick. Lyman got downfield. And anytime he's in space, we like what he can do with the ball. So led to a big play.
Well, it always amazes me watching these plays to see your linemen. I mean, I'm looking at one of your linemen. He's 20 yards downfield blocking. That's impressive.
Well, and those guys, something like I said, we practice every day. Coach Stubblefield does a good job. The mesh between that right tackle and that guy running that screen right there has got to be good because he's got somebody on his back just about every play. And if that tackle gets there, then he can turn it up and potentially have a big play. If he doesn't get there, then he's just kind of a sitting duck. So the tackle's got a really important job.
Well, I think when we execute and we get Cam the ball in space, good things are going to happen for us, right?
Right, absolutely. Like I said, that right there is Ethan Cathy, a sophomore, and getting out there on that outside linebacker to kind of spring the play.
Well, one of the things I think that is a little thing a lot of fans probably don't notice, if you watch Cam, it's almost like he's faking not a bubble screen.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
And then what he does is when he comes back towards the quarterback, the movement of that outside linebacker gave the lineman just enough space to get a block.
Well, we talk about 5 yards and we talk about making the catch at the line of scrimmage. So he's going to sell bubble. He's going to burst. I mean, his eyes, everything needs to be selling flare. And then he's going to put his foot in the ground and retrace. And ultimately, Joe knows he's going to try to throw the ball at the line of scrimmage where Cam left from. The tackle knows that's his mess point. And he's out there. The guard's supposed to turn up for number 2. And then the center is going to pull out there and kind of seal the box. So, it's something that things got to work right, but when they do, it's really pretty, and it can often be a big play, especially when somebody like Cameron Knox has got the ball.
That's right. So the very next play after that play, tell us about it.
Well, we did that, and then we came back. We had been running the ball effectively. Keelan Simpson, really hard runner, kind of coming out into his own this season, doing a really good job.
One of my favorite things about this, I don't know if you remember Chris Berman on ESPN, and he would say, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling down the field. The thing about Keelan is like on this play, it's taking 3 and 4 guys to bring him down. I mean, he's tough to tackle.
Right. Keelan this is actually for zone, what we call zone high. Drew's coming across, turning up in there, and we've got him pulling to lead into the hole. And, again, it's a zone play where Joe's going to kind of sell the fake and act like he's throwing the ball. But it's an inside run game, A-gap to A-gap. And like I said, Keelan just hit it hard. We had to hold that play, which means the lineman ultimately executed. And like you said, he's rumbling, stumbling, bumbling, but it's a big play for us right there.
Yeah, Keelan's kind of like a bowling ball. When he hits the middle of that line right there and goes through there, he's gonna clean house with some people.
Yeah, he's a powerful runner. And being a sophomore, we only expect him to get better, get in the weight room. The weight room's going to increase that ability, immensely. That the fact that he stays going and keeps his feet moving and is hard to bring down is only going to be amplified when he gets stronger and stronger.
Coach, tell me on a play. So you had a big play prior to this one to Cam. How quickly and how often do you like to play fast after a positive play?
Well, a lot of times the defensive line's kind of hanging their hat. When we get a little momentum, we want to try to finish it. It all depends, what's going on in the game. But, quite often the defense gives a big play. They're kind of down, and a lot of times you can take advantage of that.
All right, so the third play is the very next play after that one. It looks like you just hand it to Keelan, and he makes a few people miss.
Yeah, this is power. Drew Hobson's in the game again. We're basically what we would call right 8, which means the slot's on the right, and Drew's on the right. He's going to kick out. The guard's pulling around, turning up into the hole. We don't do a great job kicking out. You can see that defender coming back into the picture.
That Keelan, yeah.
Keelan does a good job missing and turning up the field, and ultimately turned a play that wasn't great, still able to make a guy miss and score. And so that's where, when an offensive line does great, I can run through the hole and be successful. But when a kid can do stuff like that when the offensive line hasn't done exactly what they need to and still make something happen, that's when you're getting good.
Yeah, he kind of bounced that thing outside and then got in there, didn't he?
Right.
Well, Bob Monroe used to say BYOB, be your own blocker.
That's right.
Right? Be your own blocker. And it's so true because when you have 11 guys on the field, you hand it to one of them. Of those other 10, somebody might mess up. And so every once in a while, you may have to break a tackle, right?
Well, we talk a lot, from an offensive standpoint. It's easier for me to say this, but on defense, 10 guys can do something wrong, and one guy do a great job and make the play.
And you win, yeah.
And they win. From an offensive standpoint, most of the time, everybody's got to do right, or at least the offensive line or something like that for it to be successful. But every once in a while, like Keelan did right here, he overcame that and made something happen. And like I said, that was a good job of him jumping to the right and extending the play and ultimately punching in. Those guys want to score. They want us to be successful, and so they're going to do everything they can to get in the end zone for sure.
Sure. All right, so the next play is a defensive play.
Yeah, we've got a couple defensive plays here also early in the game. This first one is just a tackle for a loss. You can see right here the defensive end, Drew Hobson, getting back there quick. We've also got an outside linebacker getting into the picture fast, but that's Drew Hobson and Orlando Gates, and they kind of sandwich a guy off the edge, but that's Coach Hammond bringing pressure from one side and the defensive end doing well from the other side, just basically destroying the mesh point there and making a play.
Wayne Cam, go ahead.
Well, that's about a 3 or 4 yard loss on the play too, right?
Right, it is. And they did this a lot of times. You can see our outside linebacker when the running back flares right in the system that Coach Hammond does, that outside linebacker is responsible for him. So you can see that when that running back flares, Jarrell Bolin is out of the play. He's got to go cover that guy in case they throw it to him. But fortunately for us, Drew did a good job. One of the things we're so good about up front is how fast the defensive line is. And so they just shot through there before they had a chance to do anything. You also see Orlando Gates coming off the boundary side, getting back there in the play as well. So a really good job by those two guys.
I tell you what, Hobson, boy, he flies to the football, doesn't he? I tell you, he gives it 110% every play and will get after you.
Drew, we have to do a good job of, I think we were looking at two different plays there. That's why you were talking about Cam and I was talking about Orlando. But, yeah, Drew does a tremendous job. He flies down. We have to try to slow Drew down from time to time, which, it's refreshing to actually do that. Most of the time we're trying to pick kids up, get them to play faster. But Drew he's all go. At times that gets us, whether it's misdirection or jumping off sides, but it's so much easier to slow a kid down than it is to pick him up. So we're proud of the way not only Drew but that whole defense plays as far as just running fast.
All right, so let's look at our last play. This is the play I was talking about where Cam is playing over the slot receiver and the running back's running towards the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, so that's just a stretch play. Like you said, Cameron Knox is a tremendous athlete. He doesn't have a whole lot of chance to block him right there. But you've also got an outside linebacker that's kind of stretching the play out. And again, that is Orlando Gates. No, that may be Jarrell.
Yeah, and
that's going to be Jarrell Bowen that stretches it out, and then you see Cam fly up and kind of finish the deal.
Well, he does a really nice job. I think Orlando does a real nice job of squaring up that blocker, right? Extending the runner, not letting him get inside of him and making him go to the outside where he has help.
Right. And, like I said, that's Jarrell, number 20 right there. He forces the running back and then keeps his outside shoulder free right there. He both stretches that out and then tries to get out there. And then he's got his buddy Cam, like I said, avoiding that slot receiver blocking and coming down. That's what Cameron's going to do, for a while now. He's so fast and he's explosive. When he knows it's run, he's coming down full speed,
sure.
and he can make things happen. So Jarrell and Cameron are huge parts of that defense, and that's a play right there that shows their speed and ability off the edge.
Well, we hope you enjoy seeing some highlights from the previous game and kind of getting in Coach Cody Stubblefield's head as he watches the footage. So, Coach, now as we work into the Ripley game, I remember coaching even 7th and 8th grade football in New Albany, and even the 7th graders don't want to lose to Ripley. So, and we've had some rivalry games this year against East Union and some others like that. But I'm going to tell you, and Pontotoc's a huge rival, but I never coached against somebody our kids wanted to beat as bad as they want to beat Ripley.
I think that's been a rivalry for a long time. We've got parents and maybe grandparents that have grown up in town that, Ripley is the team they want to beat. So it's an old rivalry. It's still important to our kids today. We've been very fortunate that since my staff's been in place that we haven't been beaten by Ripley. We talk a lot about that, not getting beat from the team up north, and then we also tag it on to North Pontotoc, not getting beat from the team just south of us. So, those schools, both of them, Ripley, they're right down the road. So a lot of our kids know those players, so they just naturally want to beat them. You don't want your guy next door to come into your house and win.
We know another thing it's been a lot of excitement this week already because we've got homecoming week.
Right.
So that adds an asterisk to the game this week on the schedule, I'm sure.
Yeah, homecoming, it's a lot of fun for the community. We do the community pep rally every day. They're dressing up, they're doing different things, which is a lot of fun for kids. We talk all the time about, trying not to get too caught up in that as a football team because, our ultimate goal starts at 7 o'clock on Friday night. So, but we do want kids to enjoy it. We want them to have a good time. We want to be part of the festivities. We just don't want to get lost in it. But, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of excitement. It brings our school together, our community together. So you got to love homecoming, and you don't ever want to lose on homecoming. Whether there's a dance afterward or a party or whatever, you want to make sure when we crown the queen, we do it the right way and we come out with a win.
Yeah, so tell us about Ripley. What do they look like offensively? What do they look like about defensively? I noticed also watching Friday Night Fever on WTVA or whatever that Ripley has beat or played some folks really well that were kind of a surprise, I thought, this year.
I think Ripley is as a team that's on the upward tick. Last year we beat them 42-0. I think they're better offensively this year. Perry Lyles, this is I believe year 2 for him to be there. So that offense that they've put together with a wing tee and some double wing concepts where they use misdirection, has gotten better and better.
And a guy that's won state championships. I mean, he was in Calhoun. Was it Calhoun?
Calhoun City was very successful there.
And a lot of played for state championships, had some good athletes. So a good coach, a very good powerlifting coach too. Probably has some strong kids.
His kids are always going to be strong. Powerlifting's a big deal to him, and they're going to be successful there. So they're a team that we're going to have to go in from a defensive standpoint. This week we practiced, where the ball wasn't, the linemen weren't there, and we're tackling basically all 3 guys: the fullback, the quarterback, and the wing or whoever he may be pitching to. So we got to make sure we play assignment football, and that's why you do that. You make sure the fullback's taken, quarterback's taken, and then pitch man's taken, and they do that over and over. So every day this week we've done that drill where we didn't have the ball in there and we had to tackle all 3 of them. So, once you only have one and you have to tackle the guy with the ball, we ought to fly down and rally to that.
Sure.
So what about players to watch? I know the audience out here is going to be watching TV and watching the game.
Yeah.
Tell us some numbers and some players to watch.
So offensively, what we've been talking for the most part so far, number 3 is a senior running back for him. He's a really strong guy, does powerlifting. Him and Cameron Knox went at it a lot this past powerlifting season. Really good player there. Number 7 is another young man. So 3 and 7 are the 2 guys. 7's a little bit shiftier, a little bit faster. But they both, if they get through the first line, they can go to the house. So we've got to make sure we've got guys, like I said, playing that gap responsibility football, flying down, and then we got to make sure we wrap up. Second chances are not something you want to give people on the defensive side.
Well, it's funny, when you play a team that plays the way they play, a lot of times the defensive players can get to watching everything that's happening in the backfield and forget to tackle. I remember Coach Ashmore. I used to coach with Coach Ashmore, and he would coach against Ripley, and I used to joke with him. He had some great advice for his defensive players. Ripley'd be
all that lined up, know exactly what to do. Then they're ultimately playing fast. So we spend a lot of time doing a lineman assignment, and then this week, like I said, we added that no ball drill
tackling
where
everybody.
We're tackling all 3 people that could essentially get the ball. Whether it's veer or whether it's some type of misdirection or cross underneath.
So what are they doing defensively? What are you going to have to? Are you going to see a 4-man front, a 3-man front? What are you looking at?
So defensively, they play primarily in a 4-3. They're too high, so they've got a 4 on the back end. So I'm ultimately I like seeing too high. It creates space underneath. We always should be effectively. So the big tell is going to be where linebackers are they going to be out there over our slots? Or are they going to be apex in the middle? Or are they going to try to get involved more in the run game? So those will be keys for us to pay attention to. We're always keying off safeties and whether we can high-low those, whether we can throw a hitch underneath or throw a fade over the corners.